Hello everybody, and welcome back to the DogDare podcast. If you are a return viewer, welcome back, and thank you for coming back. If you're a new viewer, thank you very much for finding me and taking the time out of your day to take a watch. Hope everybody's doing good. This is episode number 16 of the DogDare podcast, and it is actually my 1-year Podiversary, which is a little frightening to me because I can't believe that whole year has flown by so quickly. So with my Podiversary, I wanted to give a huge thanks to everybody that has taken the time to come back and watch, to reach out to me via emails, via Ravelry or Instagram, or comments in my past videos. I appreciate that very much. I have to say thanks to you all. My view of the world is much brighter now than it was a year ago. So I thank you all for that very much. You all have been very kind and supportive and very sweet, and I've met some wonderful folks in this past year. Actually more wonderful folks than I think I've met in most of my life. So thank you again for that. If you care to follow me on Instagram, my handle I'll put here is David DogDare on Instagram, and I am over on Ravelry under DogDare. Check, if you want, definitely follow me on Instagram, because sometimes I'll do some fun little quick prizes, giveaways via Instagram. I won't ask you to copy paste and anything like that. It's just more just answer a question or something within the comments of the photo I post on Instagram, and I'll choose from that. Also, I'll post some videos of music or some random odd things. So I definitely have fun with it. 1 second. Sorry about that. My stepdog, Huck, my partner Billy, rescued a miniature schnauzer named Huck when Huck was 2 years old, and Huck is now about 10, and he tends to bark at, he protects us. A car happened to drive by, had the nerve to drive by down the street, and Huck had to alert me. So, sorry about that. So again, follow me on Instagram if you'd like. There's some fun stuff I like to post and have fun with that over there on Instagram. So I recently ended my hashtag DogDare Bates Motel Mal, because I'm a huge fan of Bates Motel. So check out the last video I posted that I announced the winners, and I also showed off 2 props that actually came from the television show, which I was lucky enough to win, and the proceeds went to a great cause. But I actually forgot, in the last video, for that winners video, I filmed a separate section to show off what I created, and ended up realizing I forgot to include it in the actual video. So here's a quick little look of what I created. It's a weaving that I did that is inspired by Bates Motel. There's the gray stair steps here that reminds me of the steps going up to the main house. There's some colors throughout that remind me of Norma and Norman. And at the very end, hopefully not a spoiler, at the very end, everything ends in a, I guess more, what do I want to say? It was a great ending. So I'll leave it at that. But anyhow, that's what I created for the DogDare Bates Motel Mal. That was a lot of fun, so thanks to everybody who played along. I think everybody had fun, and there'll be more Mals along the way. The other knit along we just finished. I co-hosted with the Color and Life podcast, Jennifer and John Michael. They just posted on their Color and Life podcast channel yesterday the winners announced for our Color and Life DogDare knit along. So that was a lot of fun. So thank you all to the folks that played along. I know I had Diane, Howard, and Robin who played along and created socks. My dare on that was to knit my first pair of socks and 2 pairs of socks. And I had some issues you know, as I mentioned in that video, I waited to the last minute. I spent too much time researching and watching videos and crafty classes and thinking, I have time, I'll start them. And then I looked at the calendar and realized, oh boy, I am running out of time. So let me find here what I ended up doing, because again, my dare was to create 2 pairs of socks. So a couple weeks ago, I was working on this one with the toe up. I finally got the hang of the toes. Love doing the toes. I was going to do this with the afterthought heel, but I was looking at my time and realizing I'm going to run out of time before the cowl ends. So I went ahead and went to the crocheting route. So I ended up crocheting 2 pairs of socks. Here's one, a bit large, misshapen. Kina, I'm using your yarn that you were very sweet enough to send my way. So these I'm going to block and enjoy these. I'll put Kina's information down below as well. The second pair I crocheted this pair. They don't match color-wise, but this is Noro yarn. So these are for Billy. And I told Billy, I was joking with Billy the other last week when I finished these. I said, hey, you know, look at these. Hey, I'm sure you'd see these. You know, I said, what would you say if you saw these on the shelves at Nordstrom? How much would you pay for them? He goes, I'd look at them and think maybe a vagrant left his socks there in the store. So anyway, I love them. So anyway, so I am determined to finish a pair of socks. You know, there for a while I was actually hating socks. I was stressing out. I wasn't enjoying it. It was driving me nuts. But I finally got the rhythm, and I think I'm enjoying the process. Especially now that the cowl is over with. I don't have the stress of trying to finishing that in time. You know, one lesson I learned is let me be a cautionary tale. If you ever do a cowl, or if I ever do a cowl again, I know to start well in advance instead of waiting until the last minute. So there you go. Some other things I wanted to show off. There is an artist. Gotta find my notes here. Lorelei. She has a podcast called Knits and Beads, and I just wanted to show off this beautiful piece of jewelry that I got from her a little while back. I posted it on my Instagram, but I forgot to show it on the on my podcast here. But isn't that gorgeous? Just beautiful. And she, I saw this on her Instagram feed a while back, something similar with this medallion, and I messaged her because she's a sweetie, and I said, hey, if you ever make another one, please let me know. So she was kind enough to alert me to say, hey, I have one, and I went ahead and got it from her shop. So definitely check her out and check her shop out, because she has some beautiful stuff, jewelry and bags. And the other thing is Christmas is coming. I mean, you know, it might be June, but it's coming. So the sooner we shop, the less stressed we're going to be come Santa time. The other thing I wanted to show is I have, I am going to be knitting starting my Rhinebeck sweater now that my sock cowl has concluded, and I'll enjoy knitting socks leisurely as opposed to stressing. But now I want to start my sweater for Rhinebeck. And the sweater I am going to knit, sorry, gotta look at my notes because I can't remember everything, is called the Drangy pattern by Stephen West. And here is the yarn I got. This is from Brooklyn Tweed, the Shelter line, and there is the color, the combination there. So that's going to be my sweater, and I'm looking forward to starting that here shortly. It'll be a little, I think it's gonna be easier than the socks, partially because the yarn is larger. So I'm not so stressed about the small needles and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that. That will be fun. Let's see here. And I'd love to hear from other folks who are going to Rhinebeck or planning to go to Rhinebeck. You know, mention it down in the comments below. It would be great to run into you and meet you. And I am actually staying at a bed and breakfast there with a few wonderful folks that I'll announce in a future episode. But, you know, we're going to do some fun things while we're there and looking forward to it. So stay tuned for more details about Rhinebeck. Other podcasts, I also want to mention Becky Boone from Friday Night Knits. Becky, you were very sweet enough to mention my little podcast on your show recently, and I've been enjoying watching your past episodes, so check out Becky's podcast. The other podcast I want to mention is Scott and John from the Sweet Tea No Shade podcast. Hello, Scott and John. They have a relatively new podcast. I think they have 3 episodes out there, 3 or 4. But they're a husband couple and funny, great, just really enjoy it. You know, I long for having a co-host, so I'm a bit envious about them. But go check their podcast out too. They're fun to watch. What else did I want to mention here? Give me 1 second. So, the other thing I want to mention is Flosstube. So, about a year ago, I got a pattern to do cross stitch for an Ouija board, of course. I finally am starting to delve into cross stitch. I have a Ravelry stand I got recently, which I'll show you on a future episode. I'm waiting for these frames that you can stretch the fabric onto as you do your cross stitch, your counted cross stitch. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm going to start the Ouija board this weekend. For those folks that are freaked out by Ouija boards, I'm not a believer in that. I know it can be a bit of a hot topic button for folks. Ouija boards, some folks think it's a portal into, you know, black magic or whatever, or the other side. And I respect your opinions and all that stuff. But for me, it's just, it would look great in my room of requirements, which is the room here. It's just, it'll be it's a cool, primitive, old looking. I'll put the picture of the pattern that I got on Etsy in here so you can see that. So looking forward to that, so stay tuned for that. One question I'd like to have down below, because I'm noticing on YouTube, Flosstube seems to be their own entity, and they seem to be separated from knitters, from what I'm seeing out there. So let me know down below if in future episodes you would prefer me to split my knitting from my Flosstube episodes. You know, for me, I would probably prefer to combine them into one episode and then clearly, you know, keep maybe Flosstube for the second half, so those that aren't interested can cut out whatever. I'm just curious. So let me know what your comments are. There are 2 folks who have Flosstube channels that I've been watching, and the first one is Gerald from Gerald Stitcher podcast. Gerald, if you're watching this, thank you very much. You've been very kind, very helpful. I've been emailing him in the past, asking questions and so forth, and he's been nothing but helpful and kind. So if Gerald is any reflection on the other Flosstubers out there, I know it's another wonderful group, just like the knitting fiber community. To me, it's fiber. We're all connected. It's all one big world. So the other one I've been watching is Stephanie of Lindy Stitches. Stephanie is hilarious. Does some beautiful cross stitch work as well. So Gerald and Stephanie, I am addicted to, and have been watching your episodes and trying to catch up on all your past ones. So thank you for that. And I'll show you my progress with the Ouija board down the road. I went to a local, I live here in North Carolina, and I went to a local cross stitch store a couple weeks ago, and there's not that many, but I came across this one and went there to visit, and it was funny because it's like a small little house, storefront, but it looks like a house. And I opened the door and walked in, and these, you know, 4 older ladies, you know, instantly turned around, all their heads swiveled and was looking straight at me. So my first reaction was like, they were very welcoming, very sweet, very wonderful, incredibly helpful, and very kind. But I always find it a bit funny. It kind of took me back to the first time I walked into a yarn store years ago in San Francisco. When I lived there, there's a yarn store there on 18th Street that I first walked into, and you know, as a male knitter, I walked in and, you know, all heads turned and I'm a little bit like, ugh. So it's just a funny little reaction that I tend to deal with or have. But anyway, I'm very much looking forward to it. So more to come on that. The other thing I want to do is this idea came from a Ravelry messages I got, because folks had fun with the Bates Motel mal I had. I want to do more mals in the future that are themed mals, and had a great suggestion come in about doing a Stephen King related one. So that led to Laura emailed me and suggested doing a book club for Stephen King's It. So on my Ravelry page, I'm going to have a little entry there for anybody else who wants to read it along with us. I've never done a book club, so I'm not quite sure the ins and outs. So I will plug that in there and we'll learn along the way. But I read it when I was a kid. I certainly don't remember it being almost 1,500 pages long as a kid. But I do remember reading it and it scaring the heck out of me. So with the upcoming new movie rendition of It, which looks incredibly freaky, I figured it might be a good time for us to start reading it. So if you want to join, check my Ravelry page and you'll see the thread there, and jump in there and join the fun. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. I read Stephen King's Shining, which is probably my all-time favorite horror book. Scared the living daylights out of me when I read The Shining. I remember reading as well and loving it, so I'm looking forward to that. The other thing I wanted to mention was, so that's it for knitting. That's it for yarn. So personal stuff. So I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters who are all older. Obviously, I'm the youngest of 8 kids. Youngest of 8 kids. There's a 6-year difference between myself and my next sibling. So I always felt like I grew up as an only child in a large family. And the reason for that is by the time I got to a certain age of knowing what was going on, all my siblings were pretty much old and out of the house and not wanting to deal with, like I said before, a rambling, smaller version of me. I can't blame them for that. We heard a couple weeks ago that one of my older brothers has cancer. He has stage 4 cancer in both lungs, his liver, and his lymph nodes. So a few weeks ago we got some pretty dire news that he was probably not going to last more than a couple days. That has turned around. So he improved, he got stronger. Today is his first treatment for chemo. He wants to try chemo. He wants to give it a try. He wants to fight it, and absolutely more power to him. And sending, you know, we're sending him love and great thoughts and support. Why am I bringing this up? It's something I debated whether to talk about or not on the podcast, but to be honest, when I started this podcast a year ago, I didn't want to. I wanted it to be. I just wanted to be as honest as I can be about stuff, and that's just what I wanted to do. I know there's a lot of wonderful podcasts out there that are positive and happy and wonderful, and I think that's great, and I love those. But I also understand that, you know, life, as we all know, can be tough, and we're all faced with challenges and struggles, and that's just a whole part of life. I mean, life is not Walt Disney, even though I wish it was 24/7. Life can suck, and life can hit us very hard and hit us when we're down, and we've all had those times in our life. So I have heard on times on other podcasts where folks may kind of talk about something personal or scary, and they will verbally say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, this podcast is about knitting. And I understand that, and I respect that. But for me, for the ones that I do, for me, that's the whole package. The whole package is the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, you know, beautiful knitted art, or knitted pieces of work, and knitted pieces or crocheted pieces that aren't so beautiful. So, you know, it's everything. And, you know, so I just wanted to bring that up. That's something that we're dealing with. And I will keep you posted as life goes on for my brother and for everything else that tends to come up. But, you know, if you're out there and you're struggling and you're having a hard time, and you feel that you're isolated and are in your own grief and your own pain, you're not. And, you know, definitely, if you want to message me or talk about it or whatever, I'm definitely, you know, open to that. Yeah. That's it, I think. So, I hope that's not too awkward, but again, it's just life. Life is awkward. Life can be very tough. I was watching, there's a YouTuber that is in Finland, I believe, that I've been following for the past couple years. Him and his good friend do videos on photography and lighting and editing and all that stuff, and really some great, wonderful information. But I discovered their latest upload that he ended up committing suicide a month ago. He was struggling with depression. And, you know, it just kind of goes to the fact that life can be very tough, and we all struggle with things, and whatever you're putting out there, or whatever we put out there to the world, our face on Instagram or on YouTube, or however we portray ourselves, may not be exactly what's going on in that person's life. You know, that's where, you know, just everybody's been very kind to me and very wonderful and sweet, and I appreciate that on YouTube. I do watch other YouTubers, knitters and such, and I see some comments or thumbs down that's like somewhat harsh, and I just have to shake my head, because I'm like, you know, we just need to be, people in the world need to just be kinder to each other, and that is shockingly, that's such a hard thing for some people to do. But we have no idea what's going on in someone's life. We have no idea, even if we know the person. I have siblings that I'm estranged from, that I'm not connected with for reasons that I won't go into. So, but it's tough. We just don't know what's going on. So just I don't even have to tell you guys this, because you guys have been wonderful. But I'm hoping I just wish other people would watch YouTube channels that are the fiber community, even if they're not interested in it, because you guys have been nothing but supportive and sweet and wonderful, and I value that, I appreciate that, and I thank you all very much. So, you know, so thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me put that out there on the table. And, you know, maybe it'll help someone. That's the reason why I wanted to talk about it, that maybe it might kind of shine a light, or help someone out there who's dealing with a struggle and maybe is a little reluctant to say it or discuss it, or feel that they have to put on an air about them that, you know, everything is happy and wonderful and everything's great and happy, and you know, it's not. So what I needed from my brother who has cancer is I went ahead and crocheted him. I didn't knit. I'm on a crochet kick. It was going to be a scarf, but I ran out of yarn, and I thought, well, what I'll do is make him a pouch that he can put his stuff in. So I'm going to finish this with a button and finish that up tonight and get that sent out to him. I'm going to probably go out there to California in the next couple of weeks. It's sort of, I'm waiting for certain info to come in. But I will most likely be out there for his next chemo treatment to see him. But I've been talking to him, and he's, you know, talked to him yesterday. He's positive, he's energetic. He's ready to fight the fight he can fight. And yeah, so there you go. If you're still around, thank you very much for listening. I very much appreciate it. Stay tuned for some more fun mouse and some fun other stuff coming your way. I hope you have a wonderful upcoming weekend. Do something kind for yourself. Do something sweet and wonderful for your little four-legged friends or two-legged friends. You know, chipmunks, squirrels, dogs, cats, squirrel, you know, what else? Birds, fish, whatever. Let's just love them. And again, thank you very much. So I will see you again later. Bye, everybody.